Hello everyone and welcome back to Backpack Battles, this time with a very quick for that. I have in the background a sped up version of my promotion match in which I use this build to get to diamond. The basic concept of this build is using the brass knuckles and claws as much as possible and their on-hit effects of getting more thorns or spikes and using that to empower them, as well as having other unhit effects with the supporting system. There are multiple ways you can build this. In the very early game, I would recommend trying to get any weapon you can get on sale, as normally you will have a few rounds till you get the claws themselves. If you see tusks and gloves, take them. They're needed in that case. At the very least, 2 or 3 tusks would be perfect. 2 or 3 claws would be perfect. Other items to gain spikes would be good as well. The basic items for this build are the claws themselves and the brass knuckles, which we will get anyway at round 8. So the foundation for this build is very easy to get, even though you get it a little bit later than the very first few rounds. So this game has the weakness of the very first few rounds. Try to not get too much of a disadvantage here. If you can get a lot of piggy banks, that would be worth it. If you get a lot of backspace, that's worth it. Take every dagger you can get, because the dagger is also needed for this build. And every chance to upgrade the dagger. And it doesn't matter which upgrade. If it's poison dagger, the vampiric dagger, or the spectral dagger. I haven't tried the spectral dagger, to be honest, but I think it's really good, depending on if you can get the mana potion early on or not. So one of the positive points of this build is it is very flexible, since you can switch out all support items for each other. I recommend any Goobert in that case, because the claws are attacking really fast, especially in the battle rage. So you will stack Goobert very fast, as you can see here on my cheese Goobert. If you can get cheese Goobert early, that would be almost the best. Otherwise, the Vampiric Goobert or the Steel Goobert would be great as well, as the max life and the random buffs do stack very fast and very high. But you don't need Gooberts, you can also use just food, you can use holy items as support if you get them very early on. You can also use the gems. If you get a lot of gem boxes, or at least one, you can use the gems to empower your on-hit effects or your armor for additional effects to win. Doesn't matter which support items, but the basic concept of this build is to have a very high attack speed, have a lot of on-hit effects, and especially the battle rage. The items in the stars of the brass knuckle will trigger 100% faster, and the brass knuckles have a chance to stun for 0.5 seconds. So make use of the effect of the dagger, that they attack multiple times or at least twice during the stun of the opponent. If the opponent is stunned, the effect of the dagger will trigger multiple times. So that's the reason for upgrading the daggers and having a lot of daggers in the star space of the brass knuckles, as well as for example gems or anything that you can put on the claws. Personally, I recommend any way to gain mana. For it doesn't matter if it's blueberries or it's mana orbs. Personally, I recommend mana orbs because they can generate a lot more mana and a lot faster, especially if they are in the range of the daggers or any fast ticking item. The mana you will need for crowns. The holy crown will trigger after 10 mana that you will get invincible for 2 seconds. And those 2 seconds can be very crucial, especially against high burst builds or builds that tick poison or anything that will harm you after a few seconds, while you can still ramp up your attacking time during your invulnerability. So, and to support multiple crowns so you can get invincible multiple times, you should have a good mana supporting system with you. In that case, I found, I think, 2 mana orbs for later 2 or 3 crowns, so I got an invincibility of at least 4 seconds, which saved against a few opponents. The longer the round goes, or the battles go, the stronger you will get, especially with your stacking cheese and cheese Goobert, as well as if you get other support items. The support items you can switch out take what you can get from the shop. In that case, I got birds and a trumpet, for example. But if you don't get them, you don't need them. That's one of the strong points of this build. Try to get as many daggers as possible. Try to get as many bags as possible, as you will need the space. In this game, I did struggle a little bit with bag space, as you can see, for example, here. So try to get early as many bags as possible without compromising your economy. To improve your economy, buy as much piggy banks as possible early. They are worth it if they're not on sale after 2 rounds. If they are on sale even after 1 round, you made gold, so taking them is most of the time worth it. This game I didn't have too many of them. That was not even an optimal game, as you've seen. I've lost 2 rounds in the very early game, but also you can see in the late game there are rarely any opponents which can beat me. You will also have a relatively easy chance in this elo to get at least to diamond. Using corrupted crystals at the end or anything to put on your class to trigger on-hit effects is always the best case. The only enemy that is really strong at the moment against you would be the critter build of the ranger, but with the last patch it got nerfed a little bit, so you will see it a little bit less. And out of all the meta builds, that one is still a problem for this build, as you stack as many buffs as possible, while the enemy will steal them and make themselves stronger. So you rely on your buffs, and if you don't have them, that will be a problem. While the other meta builds, for example, Mana Thirst build, the double X build of the Berzerker, or the double revive build of the Pyromancer, this build can win against them and can even destroy them depending on which round you are fighting. But the later it goes, normally the better chances of this build are to survive and to win against the builds. For example, here we have the standard meta double X build, which is at the moment really strong but got nerfed in the last patch, and that person lost to the claw build, even though the claw build is not optimized perfectly. As the dagger upgrades, they don't really matter which one. Personally, I recommend any of them, but if you can get it, get the vampiric talisman, get the vampiric daggers, as the daggers will hit a lot of times and even multiple times during stun and during the battle range, so you will heal a lot during the first few seconds, and if you get to be invulnerable during that time due to the holy crowns, you can even heal to the cap to your max life. That was my very quick little guide to the claw build of the Berzerker. I hope that was very informative for you, and have fun climbing the ladder in backpack battles. I will see you next time.